As a youngster, what did you want to be?
Well, just before I left school, I wanted to be a journalist, and I was told that this couldn't be. The headmaster said, you can't be a journalist because you don't have a GCE in English, and I have since told this to journalists, and they've laughed and said, I've never heard anything so ridiculous. You know, none of them had GCEs. Yeah. But I particularly wanted to write about sport, which has always interested me. And
which sport in particular?
Cricket, football, tennis interest me tremendously. And I would love to have written about them, but it wasn't to be.
This imitative facility that you have, when did it start? Very early on?
It started with me like every child from sort of learning to talk. I think we all learn by mimicry, and I suppose I never stopped doing it, really.
What did you do, having left school?
Well, I worked for a mail order firm, hoping I could get into the selling game. I was told to go into the selling game because I had the gift of the gab. I remember the teacher saying, Yarwood, you've got the gift of the gab, go and sell, you know. Yes. So I went to a mail order firm, and I left there and then went to another firm, a clothing firm, where there was a very good chance of me becoming a commercial traveller, but unfortunately I failed my driving test 4 times, so that never came about. And it was while I was at this firm that I was encouraged by people who I worked with to go into the entertainment profession.
Yes. Had you started entertaining as an amateur?
Only for about 2 weeks, because in actual fact I earned more in the first 2 weeks as a semi-pro than I could possibly earn at the clothing firm, you know. Yes. So I thought, well, there isn't much hope for me in the other job, so I'll take a chance. I had nothing to lose, really, because I wasn't getting anywhere in the other job, because I kept failing my driving test.
What was the semi-pro work you'd done?
Well, it was clubs and pubs and things, you know. I remember the first time I was asked to appear professionally. It was rather funny because the chap who asked me offered me 30 shillings to appear on the Friday night and the Saturday night in his pub. He'd seen me in an audition, you see, and I was so lacking in confidence about myself, I knocked him down to £1, you know.
You offered to do it for less?
Yes.
Have you done that since?
No, I don't do it anymore.
And what was your first full-time job?
A club in Manchester, and they paid me £12 for the week, which was £3 more than I was getting at the mail order firm. Yeah. Then I started to work sort of 14 shows a week, you know, 2 shows a night, and I could earn £30 a week, which was a fortune to me, you know.
So you were a fully-fledged professional. Was there plenty of work about?
There was indeed, actually, because in Manchester the clubs were just sort of beginning to sort of blossom, you know, and there was so much work about then, and of course in Yorkshire and in the northeast of England, 10 years ago the clubs were just beginning to happen, and there was plenty of work about. I was very lucky.
And when did you move further afield, out of the Manchester area?
Well, I've never really moved out of the north of England club scene at all, ever. I think my first sort of prestige move to the south was when I was asked to appear on Sunday night at the London Palladium in 1965, I think it was. Yeah. And that was a great thing. That was a thing really that got me off the ground.
And then there were summer seasons and pantomimes?
Summer seasons. I was in Yarmouth for the first one, then Blackpool.
And radio and television, of course, came along quite quickly.
Yes, I did various radio programmes, programmes that we don't have now. Midday Musical, I think I did once, and things like that. Yes. And television came pretty frequently.
Yes. You did a couple of series of a programme called Three of a Kind that did you no harm at all.
That was in 1967, yes. That was for BBC Two. And this programme was quite popular. In fact, we were the first light entertainment programme to go out in colour, I think I'm right in saying. And that was the second series we did. And we all went our separate ways afterwards. Ray Fell and Lulu, we all sort of... Lulu got her own show. We all sort of split up then after that.
Yes. What do you look back on as your first big break?
I would say in 1968, the television series, which was called Will the Real Mike Yarwood Stand Up?
Yes.
And in the same year I was asked to appear in the Raw Variety performance, which was a great thrill as well.
Yes. Now, you married one of the dancers on Will the Real Mike Yarwood Stand Up, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I met Sandra on the programme. I was about 3 weeks plucking up the courage to ask her out. In fact, I had to get somebody to do it for me in the long run. Mm-hmm. And we were sort of courting for about 12 months, and then we got married.
Yes. And then you did 2 series of Look, Mike Yarwood. The first one got something of a pasting for the critics, but the second one was a tremendous success. What was the difference between the two series?
There was very little, really. I think the second series probably was better because of I gained experience, although I thought the material on the first show was every bit as good.
Yes. Now, obviously, impersonation isn't enough. It is the material. It's what the characters are doing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you write a lot of your own material?
Yes, I do. I have a scriptwriter for the TV series, and he does other bits for me. But I think it's important that a performer should be very much involved with his own material. I have to think what those people would say, you know. I mean, if I write a script for Max Bygraves, I have to think what he would say, or if I write a bit for Edward Heath, I have to think what he would say in whatever situation I'm putting them into.
Mike, how do you set about planning an impersonation? Which strikes you first, the voice, or the face, or a mannerism?
No, it's a very collective thing. If I see somebody become famous and they've got tremendously predominant mannerisms and they speak a certain way, which is unusual, I go for it right away. I don't find just the voice is enough. I think that the whole thing has got to be, visually amusing as well as vocally, you know.
How long does it take, usually, until you're quite confident that you've worked your way into the skin of this personality?
It can take ages. I mean, I'm still trying to do Sir Alec Douglas Hume, and it can take a long time. And I watch television all the time when I've got the free time. I just keep watching television and till it comes, you know.
How do your victims feel about it? Obviously, they should feel flattered in some way, and it's good publicity, but do they never feel that they're being held up to ridicule?
Well, I've never had any reaction from the people that I do. I have had reaction. People have remarked about it, but never taken offence.
Are you planning to broaden your scope? I mean, would you like to do the singing and dancing and...
Well, I do a little bit of singing on the TV shows, but I never take it seriously. I just do it. I'm what you might call a very, very average singer for a comedian, but I'm a below average singer for a singer. So there's talk of me doing a record, so who knows? I may sort of branch out. It's not an ambition of mine.
What about straight work? Would you like to turn your ability to characterise into straight acting?
Well, it's... there again, it's not an ambition, but if I was asked to do it, I would certainly like to. I've never had any training in acting. People often say to me, oh, yes, but you are an actor, because look at all these people you do. But, of course, they are real. They exist. I know them. I can see them. If you're an actor, you have to pick up a piece of paper, which is your script, and you have to... create the character yourself, whereas the people I do actually exist, and I find that easier than acting.